Swamp Thing number 17, written by Scott Snyder and Jeff Lemire, art by Andrew Bellinger. This is the finale of RotWorld, and prior reading is all Animal Man and Swamp Thing before this. So we left off in Animal Man with Anton Arcane showing Abby and Maxine being ratified, and everyone's just like, oh no, this is the worst possible thing that could have happened out of this. And Anton's like, yep, let me explain how I did it. And turns out, if you read the pages of Animal Man, you knew that Maxine offered herself up to the rot in order to save her family. Of course they backstabbed her, but she became one of the Hunters 3 because of that. And then in Swamp Thing, turns out that Anton killed the original Abby and then cloned her, progressively aged her up so that she got to the proper age within a year. And then, in order to make it so that she wasn't so headstrong, he literally lobotomized all of them and gave them swords for arms. So, yeah, there's that. Anyway, Maxine is, of course, battling her dad. And her dad's, like, crying. And he's like, no, this has to be a trick. Oh, you're not my daughter. You can't be. And same thing for Swamp Thing. He's like, oh, this can't be real. These aren't the real Abbeys. And Anton explains everything he did and how it totally is definitely real. And, search your feelings. You know it to be true. And at that point, Maxine, because she's the only one who still has a brain, is just like, oh, I love the rot, Daddy. It's so fantastic. Life is a lie. This place is awesome. And he's like, no, this is not what I wanted. And Anton just spends like 2 full pages here just being like, you failed. I win. You suck. I'm better. Deal with it. And he just does that for like 2 pages as everyone else freaks out. And then finally Buddy manages to turn the tables on his daughter. And he's like, you know what? You may have taken my daughter, but I'm taking her back. She's too good for this world. And he turns his hand into a talon and just decapitates her. And that just kind of like breaks him. Everyone's like, all right, stand up, fight, buddy. You got the upper hand. And he's like, no, I'm done. I got no reason left to fight. I'm out. And it's like, what? No, you can't just be out. Come on, we got to go do the thing. And Swamp Thing's like, oh, he's right. We got to raise the bot up into the sky to seed the clouds with the green. And he's like, So then Swamp Thing's like, fine, whatever. Steel, do you have the strength to be able to do that? Or at least be able to make it launch into the sky? And he's like, yeah, I think I could do that. So he goes over and hacks into the robot and turns it on so it starts to fly up, Iron Giant style. And then immediately Anton jumps down and just slashes Steel in half. So he's off the table. But the bot is already taking off. So Anton jumps onto it and he's like, I'm just going to blow it up prematurely so it doesn't make it up into the atmosphere. You guys are screwed. And everyone's like, oh God, he's going to do it. We got to get up there. So at that point, Animal Man, he gets over his thing. Literally the quote here is, Baker, are you all right? And he says, no, but I'm not letting that evil bastard hurt anyone else. So he flies his way up along with Swamp Thing, who still manages to have his wings. And Anton's just yanking out cables, just being like, oh, you guys, you've always managed to be just a little too late. And Buddy gets a hold of Anton while Swamp Thing is trying to steady the bot and keep it flying upwards. He uses his vines and wraps around it and basically pulls it up with his own wings. And Anton's like, well, this dance will never end between us, but I'm going to end this version of it. And he throws Buddy off of the bot and then starts ripping off Swamp Thing's vines. Buddy is captured by Beast Boy. He catches him out of midair. And he's just like, yeah, look, I'm completely out of red, so I'm not really able to do anything else. And Beast Boy's like, hey, what if I channel my connection to the red through you? Would that work? And they're like, let's give it a shot. So Frankenstein puts a little dome around them for protection, and then he channels all of Beast Boy's red energy into himself, which seemingly kills Beast Boy. So at that point, we see Swamp Thing still battling Arcane, barely managed to hold it together. Buddy makes it back up there with new flight powers, and he's like, oh, this is where we turn it around. I'm tackling you off this bot, and you don't have a way to fly. So he knocks Arcane off. Swamp Thing manages to get it up into the clouds, and then he ignites it, and the green seemingly melts away all of the rotlings on the ground. And Arcane does the whole thing of like, oh, this is not over. I will get you even worse next time. So at that point, everyone's just kind of catching their breath, and the Buddy and Swamp Thing are reminded, like, he just retreated into his castle. He ain't dead. Maybe go get him. And it's like, right, yeah, we should do that. So they run inside, and as they make their way in there, he's like, you guys just don't get it. Like, death is endless. Like, plants had to begin somewhere, the animals had to begin somewhere, but death, the rot, is endless. So I'm able to time travel. And I'm not sure I get that part, but regardless, he jumps into a portal and is able to, go back in time to just do it again. And they're unable to follow into the portal, and they're like, okay, we just lost again. Fantastic. Great. This sucks. But then they're greeted by the Parliament of Decay, which is just, the thing that's in charge of Anton, more or less, his managers. And they're like, hey. And they're like, oh, God, it's you. Why? We've lost even more. And he's like, no. Anton sucks. Look, we're a force of nature. We aren't good or evil. We just do our thing because it's like what we have to do. He is evil, and we shouldn't have trusted him. We shouldn't have made him the guy in charge, but regardless, we did. And we have enough energy, enough ability to send you guys both back as well. You will only get the one shot at that because he's draining our abilities to power himself up, but we can still send you back that one time. Make your choice. It's happening now. And they're like, do we trust the Parliament of Decay? Well, we really don't have any other options. So they both jump into the portal and they say, whatever it takes, we have to stop Arcane. And that's it. That's the event. That's where it leaves off. Okay, so first things first, the art in this issue is done by Andrew Ballinger, who I believe we've seen on an earlier issue of Swamp Thing. I think it might have been the annual. We haven't seen him in this event, though. And it really, it just hit me. Not in a good way, where I was going into this expecting some Yannick Paquette or some Marco Rudy, as has been for the whole event. And then we get this completely different style. And it is completely different. It is a very cartoonishy style. And it's not a bad style on its own, but to be the capper to this whole event really just kind of dampened it a little bit. Really wasn't a big fan of that. As for the entire plot, as for how they handled the finale of it, I think it did well. I think it did a good enough job of saying, okay, the big thing they had to do was explode this robot, and they did. They gave Animal Man a moment of dealing with his daughter becoming a hunter. I do feel that everything was a little bit rushed, though. This probably could have dealt with being split into two issues, where the middle point would have been Arcane taking off with the robot, and everyone just going, oh no, what do we do? And then the next issue is just everything else. Might have been a bit too much stretched out at that point, but this one just felt a bit too compressed, so maybe there was no happy middle ground. But regardless, the biggest issue I think I have is the fact that it doesn't end. Like, this is technically the finale of the event, but I think both of the next issues of Animal Man and Swamp Thing are labeled as epilogues, where it's a little disingenuous, because they still haven't beaten Arcane. They're still going to do that, and that's going to happen in one of those two books. So, I think that it would have been better if this wasn't labeled the finale as much as it was labeled, finale parts 1 and 2 of 4. Just keep it going for the next two issues of these respective books. But I guess that's just me. Overall, I'm going to give this one I'm going to give it a 7 flat. I think there were a bit too many problems to really say that it was a fantastic book, but as for RotWorld, it did a good job of wrapping up what it needed to.